Hello, welcome back to another episode of The Trek Way. What are you doing, Gray?
I got to think of something different every time.
He cracks me up, this boy. We are back today for a special purely because, we're finished for now on the
Yeah,
reviews.
we got 7 weeks until
Was
the
it that
next
long?
show.
It's like, yeah, felt.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not like them to do that actually, because normally they have actually them crossing over nicely. In fact, Lord Dex and Prodigy crossed over and shared 1 week at the start and the end. So
yeah.
I'm surprised they done it this way. But
I am too.
there's a chance for a breather, isn't there, Great, and a chance for us to do some of the specials.
Do you remember when they had breathers like this in the past? What did they put up?
Well, it was like 12 years or something. Not breather, was it
No,
not?
no, 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 no. I'm saying recent, meaning last 2, 3, 4 years, whatever.
Yeah.
What did they used to stick in between to keep us running till the next season of
Reruns, baby.
No,
What?
short treks. Don't you remember that?
Oh, them.
Yeah, they did the short little 5, 10, 15, 20 minute.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Gray. I'm going to add to my notes here because
Now they ended because, except for one or two, they pretty much all sucked. So,
right. So what we thought we'd do today, we're doing one of our specials, which I kind of prefer them because they're special, hence the name. Whereas our reviews are the bread and butter, which is important to us. Now, our idea today is to talk about the future, a little bit of each of the ongoing Star Trek series at the moment. So we'll see where they're going to go. And the first one I'd like to start on is Star Trek Enterprise, because I think there's going to be a new season. No, I'm joking. I was kind of hoping so, because it ended well, great. It did end well. You just gave up far too soon, so
yeah, I couldn't help it. It was getting me nuts.
You miss out on all this stuff, man, because like
I watched almost the entire first season of Enterprise and was on. I just go, oh,
you missed the Cindy arc and everything, man. Oh no.
I know. I'll go back one day. Hey, look, I'm being good and going back on Discovery, and we'll get to that. I don't want to say what I think till we get to that, but
in fact,
yeah, maybe one day I'll get back to Enterprise and watch the last year or something.
No, last few. What was how many seasons? 5.
I mean, they still give credit or homages to the series, because what was it in
they have
Discovery? Right, in Discovery they had they built the new shipyard and named it after Archer. Right, it was the Archer whatever shipyard. Yeah, they were looking out the window at the new Starfleet headquarters in Discovery season 3, and then they go, and here's the new Archer, whatever
whatever it was called,
Fleet Yard, Archer something. But it was basically building new ships, and it was the Archer whatever Fleet Yard.
Yeah, there's always nods. There's always nods in these shows. Okay, we're going to start off with little facts. No, we'll do it in the order we have it written down. So first, Star Trek show we want to talk about the future, what we think will happen, what we want to happen. Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2. Now, if there's a cliffhanger at the end of the previous season or something noteworthy, we'll mention it, which there is for some of them there's not. It wasn't a massive cliffhanger because it's kind of episodic. We missed that, so I was glad to have that back. But we did have we had number one taken away because she was an augment, or no, she was part of a species that done genetic enhancements to themselves. Is that right, Greg?
I think so. Yeah. If I remember correctly.
And that's the same thing, isn't it? They don't like that. Full stop. If you messed about with the DNA, they're not interested in Starfleet or Federation.
Right.
So
they don't want augments or whatever they call it, like they did in Prodigy. I think the timeline, though, because Strange New Worlds technically takes place before even Kirk's time, we're kind of getting introduced into these restrictions and or what the restrictions are about, or new restrictions. Because remember, they moved the Prime Directive wasn't originally around at the beginning of Pike's career in Starfleet, but during the season 1, they called it something different. I can't remember the name right now, but they started saying, now we're going to do from this day forward a Prime Directive. And I remember it was funny because they went to Pike, and Pike says that'll never work. or whatever. He makes a comment about it. So we saw the birth of the Prime Directive within the season 1 of Strange New Worlds. So I'm wondering if that's going to be the loophole, if you want to call it that, to how they're going to get around this problem with number 1. They're probably going to more or better define, the reasons behind why or why not they would let somebody in. But part of the reason I think this is going to be interesting, and I hope it's well written, is aside from the fact that she's an augment or slightly modified uh, genetically person, is that she hid it all these years. So now you have a second reason to want to boot her out of Starfleet, because essentially not revealing it is kind of lying.
Yeah.
So now she's going to be in trouble for 2 reasons. So I'm really curious when they start the second season. I guess right at the outset of episode 1, they've got to say something. So I'm wondering how they're going to handle this. I mean, they really need to write this properly, because they can't just come on there willy-nilly and go like, well, it's okay now, and we got a Starfleet lawyer and she's off the hook.
That's a good point, Gray, because this has happened more than once in the Trek shows we're watching at the moment, where they're kind of going against the rules. So augments and people that have been genetically changed are not allowed into Starfleet, but they find a way. That is one of their... I would say it's one of their top 3 rules behind the Prime Directive. Second or third top rule. Anyone that's been augmented in that respect is not allowed in. So when they've tweaked it and changed it, you should have had that bloody rule if you're going to do that all the time. But then the Prime Directive, they bend that and they break that on the odd occasion. So, what am I saying? What do I know?
No, I mean, I like the way sometimes when they bend it for a good reason. They don't often actually flat out break it. If they flat out break it, they end up in trouble. And you'll notice that sometimes they refer to, whatever starship in the past that kind of broke the Prime Directive, and they got in trouble. Whoever they were. So I think they've been pretty careful not to break it per se, but there's been some bending. There's no doubt, and stuff. And also it's, I mean, imagine if you were in a situation. It's rough when you're captain of a ship, and let's say you have to rescue your crew, or you're afraid your crew is going to be hurt, or you don't want to leave a member of your crew behind, but it's all involved in the whole Prime Directive thing. What do? You don't want to leave someone behind, so you're gonna kind of have to bend it if you want to get your person back. It's tough. It's very tough when they have to make those, and it even correlates to some things today. Some of these commanders and stuff have to make really tough decisions that truly are life or death. What do you do? I mean, I wouldn't want to be in that position.
No, you wouldn't. I'd be curious to see what they do with it.
And those are the things that need to be written properly, because those are serious, weighty concerns. And if you make it willy-nilly, it dilutes it, so it doesn't seem very important. And you can't do that. Got to be important.
Well, that'll be one of the things they have to definitely address in the second season of Strange New Worlds. Now, I like the fact that it's episodic. I don't want that to change. Now, is it allowed to, can there be little mini serial arcs within that? Of course there can. That's what Enterprise season 4, 3 and 4, something like that. They've done that like 2, 3 at a time, and it worked really well for them. Then they cancelled it. So,
I mean, technically, they kind of did that in season 1 of Strange New Worlds, because they had the overarching thing where Pike was concerned about his own death, since he already visualized it. So he was getting kind of hung up on it. So they kind of like each week would kind of talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
So that each time it would be something that he was getting over. And I like how they did that. They didn't spend a lot of time on it. They just spent a little time on it. Or maybe number 1 would say, "Are you okay?" Or maybe one of his other trusted people, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And then eventually Spock or number 1 would help him through the situation, until an episode started to make him realize more of what he was going through wasn't necessarily as important to the overall picture that he thought. And that I thought was handled really, really well in season 1, because it made it to where he was human. And if that was you would obviously be affected as well.
Yeah, of course.
And how do you get around that? Because you have to be careful, because we all know what happens, because we learned all that in the original series, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I thought they handled that really well. That's what I was really happy about the writing. And I was reading an article that was really interesting. They were saying that Star Trek Strange New World season 1 has broken a couple records per se
It
in the
has.
Star Trek universe. Yeah,
Well, for not
first of all,
being
it's
shit. That's a record now.
oh, that's a record, yeah. But it's the first time where a Star Trek show in its first season not only had high scores from critics, but high scores from the public in the
And that's
first
rare.
season
It's hard
out of
to
the
win
gate.
over non-Trekkies.
Right. So to have that right away in season 1 out of the gate is pretty rare. There's not hardly a show out there that goes out of the gate like, that good.
Yeah, that's true.
You always got to have you're kind of like it's good, but you need to develop things.
I think the reason for that, Gray, is, and you'll love to hear this, is because Strange New Worlds was, I wouldn't say borrowing, even though it's pre-original series, but it was borrowing heavily at times, and rightly so, from the original series, because it's in that same era. And that's just the classic Trek where, like, Gray's telling me to watch more of the original series, which, I am going to be doing soon, because I've watched some of it, but not loads of it. And he's put, like, some 5 top episodes from each season for me to watch through. And I will be doing that.
Start.
And Gray makes the good point that, with the original series, if it had been released the way Strange New Worlds was released, with the same high quality of writing but more up-to-date effects throughout the series, then it would have been so much better. And of course, they've remastered it so that is all better, and it is more enjoyable to watch. So I'm looking forward to that.
For the people out there that may not know this, I would think you would, but not every area of the world gets the episodes the way that maybe I get them in the US or whatever. But all the original season Star Treks, every one of them have been remastered. And the main thing that you see that's a huge, huge difference is that all the scenes of the Enterprise, even simple scenes of it flying by or going by a planet or going by a stellar phenomenon or whatever, going by a station, all that has been redone. They didn't just redo the Enterprise. The Enterprise still looks like it did in the original series, and when it was, but they juiced it up to where it
wasn't on
really
LSD. It wasn't on drugs anymore. It was the guy that was puppeteering. It wasn't early signs of Parkinson's. He was
exactly
proper along. Yeah.
So now the planets look absolutely great, and every planet they show in all the different episodes are completely different planets every time. So it's not the same planet that they use like 18 times.
What couldn't they update and change, Gray? The thing that triggers both of us. What could they not update with all that remastering that still looks shit?
They don't. Oh, the what now?
Kirk,
I'm lost.
The Gorn.
Oh yeah, okay.
They should have. I bet you they could have done something with that CGI. I'm sorry, they could have, but they didn't.
I don't think their whole thing when they started to remaster was two things. One, it was to redo all that stuff that I'm talking about. So now all the ships and the planets and the blah 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 all look up to standard, look great. But the original material that was acted by the actors, all they did do is they went back to the original negatives. So if you look at it now, it looks crystal clear and perfect. No scratches, no weird things going on.
All the fuzz is taken away.
Yeah. Right, all that. So it looks super. Now, when it comes to the Gorn episode in the original series where the guy puts the thing over his head and I'm a Gorn. That still looks the same. I think it would have been too much or too expensive to go in there and have to really change that. Yes, I wish they would have.
Because it's several minutes of it, so you're probably right, Gray, actually. Yeah, it's not just a scene. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, they didn't try to show that guy as little as they could. I mean, but still, what are you gonna do? It's a story. They gotta move it forward. I think it was even funnier when the Gorn was, and we're talking about the old Gorn with the thing over his head. Mm-hmm. He was holding the microphone talking to Kirk, right? But of course, as he's talking to Kirk, his lips ain't moving. It's just a freaking mask. So
he holds a microphone. I forgot that part. I just remember a guy in a suit fighting Kirk. I don't remember having the mic. Why is he on the mic? Is he asking the DJ for a song request?
No, what happened was he talked into a kind of like a universal translator.
Oh, okay.
And he's telling Kirk. Remember, he talked to that weird snaky kind of voice, and he goes, "Shh, Kirk, he talks like that." But as he's holding the thing up to his mouth and talking, it's just this plastic head, so nothing's moving.
Oh,
and he's just going, "Sure, Kirk, I will destroy you." And I'm like,
Ray, did you voice this character back in the day? Is that what you're saying? That was too realistic.
I know, really.
You, Gray.
Now, that is the one episode you really have to suspend your belief for a little bit, because it is actually a very good episode and
Mate, I
and pretty
suspend my
well
belief
written.
most of the time with the plastic boulders in the background. I know how.
Oh yeah, but that's easy. That's easy to forget. This guy ain't easy to
I know.
forget. Because
Right.
so you really got to just go. Yeah. Okay.
So we need. Bear in mind, we need to keep this under an hour and a half. So our future Section 31 and Star Trek Academy shows, we might.
We might
Depending on
have
time, we might have to leave them separate. But so Strange New Worlds going forwards, we're obviously going to pick up with the arc with number 1, which is fine. We want to see her be kept in, and she will be, because you obviously you would have known, because it's before the Strange New ever the
you don't want to get rid of her. That'd be horrible.
Yeah. So somehow, though, and again, if they do it the right way, keep her in. And then it'll just, because it's episodic, I just want them to keep doing that, Gray. And they can have many arcs within it. They can have an overall season-long arc if they want, but it's just the background thing of Pike and O'Neill die. But I think he's more at peace with that now. So there may be an overall arc, they may not. If there's not one, and it's just episodic again, happy with that, the status quo. I want to see that in season 2. What do you want to see, Gray?
I think the only thing overarching, if you want to call it that, in season 2 is going to be the fact that the Gorn aren't going away, so they're going to be a protagonist.
And they're so much badder, aren't they, than Plastic Suit Boy, man? They are. See if Kirk was fighting one of them, no chance. No, 1-on-1, no chance. Because this thing is like, you don't really see it properly. You're not supposed to.
They're pretty wicked looking,
but it's like some kind of arachnoid spider. It's
not
bipedal, so it will wreck you.
Yeah, it's more lizard looking. Yeah, like it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
The only thing I was kind of wondering about is I had read some stuff that because you have to be concerned about how the timeline works out, because originally we all thought the Gorns were totally unknown until Kirk met them. Well, now the Gorns are popping up in Strange New Worlds, which is before Kirk. So they're stretching this thing a little bit, but they're saying something like, well, we knew about the Gorn, but we never really saw the Gorn.
Yeah.
But then they go, but then wait a minute. Then they go against that, because later in season 1, you see the Gorn.
Is that not the juniors or the babies? It's not the full-blown adults.
Right, exactly. You don't see, the full-blown adults supposedly don't see it. But then, if I remember correctly, later you did see them see a Gorn, but I think it was because the Gorns were juveniles. They weren't adult. So
that's right.
I'm going like, wow, how many times do you want to stretch this now? Me personally, what I would have liked, and I think they should have kept it that way, is that we never saw the Gorn. Because in those episodes of Strange New Worlds, where all we heard is the noises that they make, and other things, it was much more horrifying in your mind, because you're manufacturing what this could be or look like or whatever. And I like that. I liked having the scariness of it without really seeing it per se. Shadows, noises.
Or Star Trek, you don't get it often.
Right, and I don't think they should have ever had even the juveniles, period. They should have just left it mysterious.
Ray,
what
they should have done was what they've done, again, because you've missed out because you've not seen this. Season 3, or 4. Season 3 was... I'm getting mixed up which season of Enterprise was which. It's either season 3 or 4, where they encounter, but they don't encounter the Romulans for the first time. Now, back then, they don't see each other, but they know of each other, and this is kind of round about the time that, or just before the big war kicks off. And they pop up 2 or 3 times, mate. We see them as the audience, which is fine. No problems with us seeing them for narration, story purposes. But the crew should never see them. And they don't. Right. And there's an episode where the Romulans are going about mimicking other ships in the quadrant, because they hear of the start of this Federation coming together, like the very early version of it, the Andorians, the Vulcans being pally, and they don't want that. Obviously, they don't want that. Just think of Russia right now.
Yeah, sure.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
Finland and Sweden and whatnot want to join NATO. Russia's the Romulans. I'm sorry if there's any Russians watching here. It's more your government, not you. But I don't want to get into politics.
Well, and remember, every Star Trek episode, or lots of Star Trek,
it's based on that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
especially in TOS.
So they're going about copying all these other ships. This ship can actually change form and mimic other ships. And what they do is they actually use now. It's an offshoot of the Andorians, the ones that are blind. Can't remember what they're called.
Right, okay.
Hammer from Strange New Worlds is
Hammer,
one of them. It's a subspecies of the Andorians, right? They use one of them because they've got really strong telepathy skills, and this thing is literally controlling the ship. And you see you see the Romulans, but you don't encounter them on the Enterprise at all. And it's about this Enterprise fighting them and trying to take them down and whatnot. And they're on the Romulan ship at one point. The crew beam over, don't see them. That was stretching it, but they don't see them. So they should have done that. So, yeah, I think...
we do know that in the original series, Balance of Terror, where we finally get to see the Romulans, they did say in the episode that they always knew the Romulans around. They just never saw them.
Yeah, because it's a war. It's like you know, a lot of the time you won't with kind of earlier technology and whatnot. So, and they weren't exactly wanting to talk to each other, just want to blow each other up.
Exactly.
So yeah, Strange New Worlds kind of looks after itself because it's mostly episodic. So you know, I think we're in good hands with season 2. Keep doing your thing, and we'll be happy with that. We'll move on to Lower Decks season 3, which doesn't have a date yet. I think Strange New Worlds is probably it. Does have a no? Does it have a date? It was that or Discovery that had a date for May or something.
No, Discovery. No. Discovery doesn't really have a date yet either. It was
right. Okay, Strange New Worlds is May or something, isn't it? It's after Picard, I believe.
Yeah, but I also I read an article, and I hope this isn't true, but there's saying something about Strange New Worlds might not be till summer or later.
Possibly.
And I'm sitting there going like,
yeah, because
Disco might work.
Disco might show after it. That's why, or before Strange New Worlds. That's why.
Right. So I'm assuming that I'm mixed up now because what I thought was going to happen is I thought Picard was going to, which comes in February, was going to end, and then after that would be Strange New Worlds, and then after that would be Discovery. But now I'm hearing it's going to be the other way around, where Picard's going to come out, then Discovery, then Strange New Worlds. So I'm like, oh, okay,
that's fine.
So I think we're going to get an announcement on exact dates very soon.
Yeah, I would like that.
But they can't do what I've been reading because I've read that both Discovery and Strange New Worlds are starting much later. That's not going to happen because then essentially after Picard season 3 is over, you're going to have a huge void of nothing.
Well, they mostly want always something with Trek on the TV, mostly all the time, which is what it should be, and I'm happy with that. Keeps us in a job, so to speak.
I think, like you said, I'm really surprised that we're going 7 weeks with nothing.
True.
I really am.
They should have brought Picard forward because it's ready, from what I hear. But whatever.
Something. But it's just.
But yeah,
7 weeks.
Anyway, we'll move on to we'll get Lower Decks season 3. That'll probably be way into this year, probably at the end of the year, like it normally is. Now there wasn't really a cliffhanger at the end of the last episode, from what I recall. It's like your kind of comedy type adult show, which is one of my least favorite shows of all of them. I don't hate it. It's just when it's funny, it's really funny. But then often it's not, because it's trying to be funny and Star Trek's not really funny. Then it kind of, look at Prodigy. There's funny moments in it, and it's a lot more Trekkie and serious. That's why I prefer it. Yeah. But there's moments on Lower Decks that are great.
Only when the cat.
Shax and
Shax a little, right?
Tiana, they're on it.
Tiana's right up there, and then Shax with all the really funny lines.
So basically, I think how we left them at the end of last season was they are pretty much the alpha second contactors now, because they weren't really taken seriously. The second contact follow-up missions that they do. And they were taken seriously, and their crew are taken seriously now, so they are like the top California class ship now. Season 3 going forwards, I would like to see more of the Cat and Shax, basically. I'm just, they're not.
I was waiting for you to say that.
They are the B crew, Gray. Like, they're not. Yeah. It focuses on the Lower Deckers, and that's how it should be. But we sometimes go an episode or two in a row where we don't see the Cat and or Shax, and I want to see more of them because they're hilarious. They were getting a thing going together where they're a bit romantic, so I want to see that getting on because it was bloody it was crazy, man. I was like, I'm going to have to close my eyes. I'm going to see sex in Star Trek in a moment.
Yeah, they got pretty close to practically describing it and everything too. That was
man. That cat is Tiana. She's a bit of a dirty stop out, isn't she, Gray?
That was probably that one episode where they did the holodeck thing and all that. That was probably closest thing to a racy Star Trek episode I've seen. Because they were just
Gene
like,
Roddenberry would be turning in his grave right now, man. He would be.
yeah.
What do you want to see?
I'll tell you what I'd like to see in Lower Decks. I mean, it may never happen, but I would like to see some kind of an episode, whether it's real or imaginary or whatever, to where Tiana's in charge of the ship, and Shax is like her only other crewmate, and there really isn't a whole lot of other people. I would love to see what the two of them, especially, would do with an entire episode devoted to them. Dude, that could be so good. There would be so many good one-liners being dropped that we would be laughing so much we wouldn't know what's going on in the story.
Ray, what? I mean, what are you? What? That's some imagination you've got. I love it.
It would be so wonderful. I would love to see that. I'd pay money for that one.
The other thing I want to see in season 3, and I don't really feel about this, great, is I don't think you like this, but tell me if I'm wrong. I like it when they do not crossovers, but special guest appearances from like Robert Duncan McNeil, and Jonathan Frakes and stuff. I love that, and I want to see more of it because it's a connected universe, remember, and this is the current timeline, not discovering the future timeline. So why can't there be more crossing of that? What do you think?
I don't mind that, but it really has to be handled, I think, properly.
Oh yeah.
Like for instance, the couple times that Riker popped up in the series, I liked it, but I thought it was, I don't know.
Thought it was genius, man. He's a funny guy though. It suits him.
No. I'm not taking that away from him. I'm not saying that it wasn't funny.
He's a funny character.
It was funny. Don't get me wrong.
He's the funniest character in Next Generation, I think.
Right, but the character of Riker in those episodes started to, not because of the humor. The humor was good. It was starting to grate on me a little bit because it was like it's just.
It was like a rodeo in space at one point when he's on the Titan and you see he's going in just all guns blazing. You know, I'm like, that's not Riker.
Exactly. So if you really think about it, that it's not really Riker. The humor was probably more like Riker. I could get it. But when he started getting into some of that other stuff and fighting, and I'm like, hey, Riker wouldn't say this.
No,
and that's what bothered. That's what bothered.
Especially as captain, step up as well. So
right. So that was too unrealistic for me. So I didn't like that. However, when they came back and they had little things, you know, or DS9, which is the only episode we gave a 10, they handled that perfectly because every character was pretty much acting like they would have acted and always acted.
Yeah.
So the characters didn't differ whatsoever in the Deep Space Nine episode. So it was so much more enjoyable because it was so well written and the characters were kept in their proper character mode.
Yep.
Thanks probably a lot to the stars as well, that voice acted because they were the real people. But that was like fabulous. It was almost like seeing a Where Are They Now episode.
Yeah.
You know, like where are they now episode of the characters from Deep Space Nine. So it was just fabulous and I loved it. So if they could do more like that or similar-ish to that style, then I think that would be great. You know,
okay.
I thought it really be.
Yeah. It's Grey Knight's least favorite show of all of them. And that's not a disservice. It's just one of the shows has to be, and it's that. It's not awful. It just could be better. I think it's because of what it is. Its nature to be an adult comedy. That doesn't work with Star Trek. There is funny moments in Star Trek, of course there is, but it's more about the future, hope, the socialness of it all, the pew-pew. So a comedy has to be timed perfectly, and I think because it tries to be too funny, but then when it's funny, I laugh at it, and I laughed out loud because I like comedy. My brain gets confused because it's not supposed to be like that. So it's trying to be something that's not
confusing.
Yeah. So
it even gets serious once in a while, and when it does get serious once in a while,
good.
It also seems like it is good, but it also seems totally out of character too. So they're going like,
wait a minute,
this is funny, and then
the Orville was exactly like that. Don't get me started in a tangent. You know my gripe about the Orville. I love it to bits, but they got too serious and cut out a good chunk of the humour. You just countered your own point there, man, because you loved it when it was less humour.
Well, Orville we'll have to talk about another time, but my thing with the Orville is I thought they started out with too much humor, and then
but that's just the whole point of it. He said that. Seth MacFarlane.
Well, I think that may have been the purpose at first, but I think they quickly realized that they were falling into what people really wanted to see, and that was more episodic
That's
true
Red
to the
Dwarf,
nature
isn't it, Gray? Red Dwarf's supposed to be the comedy version of Star Trek, so leave it in its lane, you know?
Yeah. But the humor that was in season 2 and 3 of Orville, I thought was funny at the proper times that they did it. So it was funny because if you really think about it, if you go back and take some of the episodes of Orville, especially season 2 and 3, and you put it up against TOS, dude, the pattern that they follow is almost exactly.
But the humor was cut massively. It wasn't just a little bit. It went from 10 to like 5 or 4.
I agree. Because they probably should have started out at 5 from the very beginning and kept it that way.
I agree with that point.
But they're finding their way, so that's okay.
Right.
But to me, the Orville was really, really good overall. And I really am sorry that, well, we still haven't heard officially whether there'll ever be a 4th season, but the more you don't hear something, the more it's never going to happen.
Welcome to the Orville Way. This is episode number 1. No, I'm jesting. We do love that show, and I hope it does come back again.
Yeah.
But we'll move on to the next season, next program, because this is the one we'll talk. That Lower Decks was the one we're going to talk about least, not surprisingly enough. Now, the one I'm most excited in this list of all the current shows that are coming.
And feared.
No, not feared, because Terry Metalis is on board, and I was saying this point to, I have no problem cross promoting channels that are out with what both Gray and I do, but I would say if you're not already, the guys at Trek Central usually do a pretty good job. They've got an hour-long interview with Terry Metalis, and he's a good guy. He's giving little nuggets of information away. Just great. Have you watched it all yet? The full hour?
No,
right. So without spoiling it, Gray trusts my opinion. I'd like to think. I watched that hour-long interview. He's got his man. He's got his Gray. Season 3 is going to be a blinder because he's a proper Trek man. He would talk about things like, oh, should Crusher, what rank should she be? Should she be captain still, or blah blah blah? He would spend a whole day talking about that with him and his writers and his colleagues. That little point. And that is the detail that we would talk. We would spend ages talking about that stuff. Just the way he talks, Gray, he has got his man. Season 3, it's purely him doing it instead of just him doing a partial bit of season 2. It's him doing it all his own way. I think it's going to be a blinder. And it should be. It's a kind of unofficial season 8 of The Next Generation. It's going to close off some story arcs. And be a nice farewell for them, and that's what we've always wanted, because the last Star Trek movie was not amazing. So give us some closure. So should we tell the people what happened? Gray, I'll let you do this, but if you recall, you can talk about your gripes about season 2 briefly, because I'm emphasising briefly because we don't have 10 hours to record it, and then you can tell us what happened at the end, so we can look into the new season.
Even more briefly than that, I'll just say Picard season 2, first episode, last episode were the 2 best. The rest of it is pure garbage. There you go.
Yeah, that's a good way to sum up. No, it was poor. The time travel thing's been done too much. It's all over the place with the story, literally all over the place, not just in the time.
We can always talk about how this or that we don't like about the writing, or why didn't they do this, or why didn't they do that. Oh my God! Even a 10-year-old could tell how bad the writing was in season 2. It was bad in many areas.
It's a good thing we didn't review that.
Ugh. Oh God, we would have died. We would have been halfway through it, and we would have been like, "Oh my God,
I would have put the Trekway in the bin, Gray, if I would have been so depressed." No, it wasn't great, and let's say I don't want to talk too much about that, because we like to be glass half full guys on the Trekway. Yep. It wasn't great. Although it had its moments, of course it did. Even the worst seasons of programs have their moments. The farewell at the end with Hugh possibly dying, I don't know. It looked like he was dying, and that's why he was messing about with Picard. He was trying to teach him one last lesson, which he done. And then he goes goodbye, and he manages to take them all back to their current timeline. And then Jurati, who's the kind of unofficial doctor at the time, she became some Borg queen wifey, and that was a bit weird, but I did like the start. At the start with the whole war and all the ships, and it looked like the Borg were taking over, and we didn't know who the Borg Queen was, and we find out then it's her. I like that. They could have just missed out the middle, and when it went episode 1, episode 10, done. Yay! I would have been happy with that.
Exactly. It
would have been great to got me.
She was like some special character that they had to devote a lot of time to throughout the series, which wasn't needed. And then when she turned into the Borg Queen, I'm going like, of course they're going to do that because that's the way they've been treating the character the entire time. Let's make her a lot more important than she really is. And then she turns into the Borg Queen.
See, no, Jurati's actually the actor that plays her she's actually a really good actor from looking at IMDb. Right. But it's just like if the writing's awful, they're all very decent actors, good actors even, but they can only go with the materials in front of them, and it's kind of a shame. But anyway, we could talk about what we have an idea now because it's coming up in February 16th, season 3. It's literally TNG, kind of. All our favourite characters, certainly for the most part, are coming back. Even Brent Spiner again as Lore. And if you watch that video, Gray, he said, I kind of had to bring him back because it's not a TNG reunion without Brent Spiner. It's kind of true.
Yeah.
Kind of true. So I think his arm was kind of forced for that one. Bear in mind, he didn't do that in season 1, killing him off. Wasn't up to him. He can only play with the tools that he has. So, okay, that's fine. I do like Laura anyway. But we see all these guys come back, and it'll be them all at different bits of places in their lives and at different parts of the quadrant, and they'll come together. I think they're trying to find Beverly Crusher. She's in a bit of trouble. They do allude that she's some kind of doctor on the frontier, not part of Federation at the time, not part of Starfleet, sorry, and she's helping people out that Starfleet don't help. I like that as Noble. It's great. And there's a bad guy played by Amanda Plummer, who is the Plummer of Christopher Plummer. And she's supposed to be a great bad guy as well. She's a great actress. So I'm looking forward to seeing this and how they all come together as a kind of... Just one thing emphasising this, great, actually, before I let you come in for your opinion on it as well, is we talked about how much we loved... the music at times in Prodigy, right? The score. It was done just almost perfectly, with the exception of we wanted more of the original music of Voyager and whatnot, rather than the third mix that they had, or a partial mix. But apparently there's going to be the just ideal blend score of music in season 3. It's going to have TOS nods to it. It's going to have TNG nods to it, TNG movie musical nods to it at the right times. And that's what he emphasises. I don't play it for the sake of playing it. I play it when you really want to hear it, when you love it the most, like what they did in Prodigy. And he was so chuffed with the score. He was so happy with it. He was asking basically, what would Jerry Goldsmith... Is it Jerry Goldsmith? Yeah.
Goldsmith wrote a lot, but so did others.
And a couple others. Was another guy he mentioned. I don't know if Jerry's still with us or not, but the way he was talking is as if he wasn't, or they didn't use him this time, so they were actually taking musical notes from elsewhere and what would Jerry do and putting this together. So I can't wait for the bloody score for this. What do you want to see from... Oh, he's looking up who it was who does the music.
No. I'm not looking that up. I know it wasn't the girl that did it in Prodigy.
That was... No, it was... Yeah, she was good as well. I get her on board as well.
I would, yeah.
What do you want to see from season 3 of Picard, Gray?
At this point, we're at bottom barrel, so anything we see in season 3 is probably going to be better. At least, I guess, I mean, I'm a little concerned. By the way, Goldsmith had passed away back in 2004. By the way,
that's it. Yeah.
So I was. Everything that I'm seeing, I want to be really excited, and I am excited to see season 3, but I still have that little guy sitting on my shoulder, gnawing at the back of my head, going like, the first 2 seasons sucked. What do you think you're gonna get? And I'm so worried because I'm worried in some ways because now we have what we really wanted, what they really should have done the first 2 seasons, but they're idiots and they didn't do it. So now we have our characters back, the people that we always loved in TNG, etc. And a couple others. And everything's there for it to be really good. But I have to say this, everything's also there to be really bad. So if they mess up and they write bad for this show, not only do you get mad because the writing's bad, but now they're taking down your favorite characters with it. So the importance of this, the pressure is on because the writers can't come up to the plate. it's very possible this season 3 could be mediocre at best and
I don't
really
think it'll
not
be
be
awful
so
though,
good.
but you're right.
I mean, and that's what worries me. I mean, it was bad enough. I mean, if you're going by past, I'm glad that Terry Matalas, however you pronounce it, is the showrunner. So that's hopeful. That's
Okay,
good.
why, Gray? Can we briefly pause and touch on that? He's a proper Star Trek man.
True.
He is a proper. He would in his younger days, when he was anywhere near a Paramount lot or whatever, he would go in and have a nosy and have a look and play with all the ships, and he was just fascinated by it all. So that's what you need, a proper Trek man to run a Trek show.
Right. So my hopes are that if that's the case, then he's probably cherry picked out the best writers or the writers that he knows he can,
including him.
mold.
He writes as well, I believe so.
Right. So now I definitely have more hope that it's going to be really good from what I've seen them try to put together. But I can't throw the feeling that at the back of my head just still gnawing on me, going like, wow, we could really get garbage too.
You've been damaged, Gray. You've been damaged. You've went through. What's that thing that people have when they come back from tours and war?
PT. I got STSD, Star Trek deprivation.
Every time someone says Star Trek Picard season 2, Gray ducks down. Cover. What happened?
But then again, like I said before, the theory is that you can't get worse than season 2. You really can't. So
yeah, it's hard. It's
I guess anything will be good. I just want to see the characters handled properly. I don't want them to look like fools. I want the writing to be up to snuff to what the characters are at this advanced stage or whatever you want to call it. And there's little things that I've seen that I've liked. And there's little things that I see that I don't like. Like in one of the clips that they showed, and we talked about this a little before, but Troy, Marina Sirtis, she's doing the same dumb thing that she did through most of TNG.
What was it in the clip we saw? What did she do in the clip?
She goes, I feel a presence of something evil or something like that. Really?
Is that all you do? Do you not have any other?
Exactly.
Is that your main skill set? Do you know? Is that the only thing you do?
And before the character was developed better as the series went on, that was the main complaint about that character in the early years of TNG. Does she just sit around going like, I feel this, I feel that?
She does something else as well, Gray, on top of that. We're lying. She does do two things prominently. That and crashing starships.
Oh, yeah, that's true, yeah. So when I saw that, I'm going like, really? So that was the best clip of Troy that you could put in a brand new series is something that we're all going to cringe at.
And Terry is involved in cutting that. So I'm not going to slag him for that, Gray, because that is one of her main things, one of her main shticks. So
I'll tell you the other thing that I really don't like. Now, maybe I don't want to say maybe it's necessary or maybe I'll be wrong. And when the series comes out, it won't matter. But the one thing I really didn't like, even though Riker had a great comedy line, you see the character of Worf come on, looks great. I mean, Dorn looks
hell
good,
yes, he's aged well, Michael Dorn, hasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So he looked great, but he comes on and goes, and the character of Worf says, "Now I'm a pacifist now."
Yeah, but we know it doesn't last long, Gray. Obviously,
no,
come on, man.
I know that, but the thing is, I don't want to hear that coming out of Worf. I don't want to hear that.
It's a character arc. He's evolving.
No,
come on.
I'll tell you what I wanted to hear, and I thought they were going to do, but they didn't. Is I wanted him to come out like he does. Today's a good day to die, exactly, or something similar to that.
Well,
you remember this is a promo.
Hey,
so get you excited. So if he came on the way he looks now, as the older, wiser, whatever you want to call him, Worf, he would have just said, "And it's a good day to die." I would have just went, "Oh,
who does the Klingon music back in the old movies like
Goldsmith.
Star Trek 6 and below?"
Klingon theme, as they call it now. That was done in motion picture.
Was it not Zimmer or somebody?
No, Jerry Goldsmith.
Are you sure? Because that's not what Terry said in that interview when you watch it. Well, you watch the Terry interview after this, right? The reason I bring this up, Worf, I don't know if it's the first... No, I think it might even be the first time you see him. He's letting slip things little tiny bit that he shouldn't be. You know, we're talking about musical notes at the right time, musical hints and themes and whatnot and scores. There's all different kinds. That comes on at some point for what, and I'm just like, yes, give me that shit.
You can check me if you want later, but the entire motion picture soundtrack
It's epic.
Star Trek Motion Picture is Gary Goldsmith. He wrote everything. So he's the one that came up with the new Star Trek opening, so to speak. He's the one that came up with the Klingon theme, because the Klingons never really had a theme. So he wrote all that stuff, and so that's endured over the years in his canon. So every time you see a brief shot of a Klingon ship, sometimes in a series or movie, it's always or you have that click that clicky clack thing in the Klingon theme.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking. Yeah, it sounds like that thing that you have at the football.
Yeah, so you either hear the click clack thing that you know is Klingon, or you hear the
right. Well, one of those musical themes, right? Watch that interview tonight or tomorrow if you can, Gray, because it does talk about the musical hints, and I'm sure he says one of those Klingon ones was done by another guy that worked with Goldsmith. But watch it. I may be wrong.
Oh, well.
Yes,
I did see bits and pieces of that. There's a couple things if we want to get on.
Watch it all from start to end. Stop skipping. You're ruining it for yourself.
I know, because I didn't have time to watch it all the time. But there's a couple of things that I did see that sort of bother me a little bit.
What?
And Terry said right at the outset, we are not going to see the Enterprise F involved in the series.
Great.
It's only going to be...
Isn't the Adventures of Enterprise F? Well, we had... Oh, my God.
He said Enterprise F is going to be important.
Yeah, it'll save the day.
But he made sure that he said that but this is not what the series is about. It's not going to be... And I'm like, oh, darn.
Great.
Because again, to me...
Come on.
Yeah, but again, I'm going with TNG now. So if I'm looking at TNG and I'm looking at the cast, I would have had them on the Enterprise F by episode 3. And let's say,
but why would there be? Why would there be? It's not the ship anymore. They've all went in different directions. It's someone else running that ship.
I don't care. Come up with a reason.
The Titan.
They've done it before. They've done it before in the movies when Kirk came in and commandeered the ship in the first movie. Boom. Bye.
Nah,
I'm taking over.
I'm going to have to politely disagree, Gray. As much as I'd love to see it, it's not supposed to. It is supposed to be in the show, but this isn't the Adventures of a USS Enterprise F to boldly go, blah blah blah. It is about the Titan A and where they're at the moment, and that's going to be the ship. The fact that they brought the F in, I'm grateful for. I am so grateful for that. Yeah. They also nod as well that you will know what happened with the E. He says that. Right. He won't say what, but you'll know what happens with the E or what says happening.
And that's okay. But to me, unless you're bringing the E in, that's nice to know.
Well,
but
the E's probably gone anyway, because the E, it's like, I don't know if it was like 40-odd years or something. Like a flagship, especially Enterprise flagships, never last anywhere near that length of time. So it's understandably that it's possibly gone by this stage.
Decommissioned.
Little things to note as well. I'd say Crusher's not really practicing the Starfleet with medicine. She's helping people out in the fringes. They were talking about Star Wars briefly. I think Captain Jack on that show was kind of panned in him. And he's like I do, and people talk to Star Wars to me in the Star Trek show, and he's talking about the Outer Rims. He's like, well, Star Trek has Outer Rims as well. Of course it does.
We're also hearing things, and I guess that Beverly Crusher romantic thing with Picard is going to be.
Oh, they might have a son or some. Yeah.
Well, you always heard during TNG that they got together here and there, whatever, and were intimate somewhat, whatever.
True.
And that's always been a running thing in TNG when it was on TV. So I'm wondering how they're going to work that. It looks like they're definitely working it in there on purpose.
I hope so.
Okay, that'd be cool.
I hope so. The other nods they have is Worf does hold the rank of captain. It's not a spoiler because you see the pips, but the way he words it, he holds the rank of captain. He emphasised that. I don't think he's commanding a ship at the moment, which is possible. Riker done that. He holds the rank of captain, and when you see him in season 1 of Picard, he's semi-retired. So yeah, it is possible to be a captain and not be in command of a ship at the time, and I think that's what's happening with him.
So what they'll do is they'll bring in the Enterprise F in the last episode, and he's the captain of that.
I'm happy with that. The War Show. It's going to be the War Show. We want the War Show. And then we've got Geordi is Commodore, which where is that set in rank? I'm so confused.
Commodore is somewhere, I believe, is somewhere just below Admiral.
So he's higher than
think.
captain, but below admiral. So he's higher than rank than Riker. What?
But
what?
But from what I understand, though, Commodores are used for different things in Starfleet than the typical stuff.
Yeah.
So in other words, as far as a starship is concerned, generally speaking, you see the captain, you see the number one, et cetera, et cetera. Commodores do just something different. I'm going to say that the Commodores are more, what would be the word?
Pen pushers.
Political, more diplomatic.
Well, yes, he runs like fleet yards and things like that, doesn't he? So possibly.
I also don't know. I'm not sure if I understand, and I'll wait till the series comes on, obviously. But in the clip, maybe I'm not looking at it properly, but Geordi seems to have a stick up his butt or something.
No, something's pissing him off. Yeah, I think it's because one of his real life daughters is in the show. The Levar's daughter's in the show, and is the character's daughter as well. I don't know if she's the one that's on the Titan. You see her on the Titan.
I think so.
Or because he's got two daughters, and as the character, and one of them's on the Titan A, and I don't know what the other one's doing. And I think the one you see in the Titan A is his real life daughter, Levar. So, I'd probably have a stick up my backside as well, because I think she's like flying into, the shit's hitting the fan. Yeah. So, maybe that's why. I'd like to see the Enterprise F. We don't see it loads, apparently. It's not the main feature, and Gray thinks it should be. I don't think it should be. But it will be important, I think. I'd like to think that bit in the trailer where you see the Shrike, no, I'm not going to call it the Shrike, the bad guys, Amanda Plummer's ship, kind of sneaking through a nebula behind the Titan A. I love that, the score, the ambience of everything, sneaking up in it, trying to do it in. I would like to think then, because it partly gets smashed up, surprise, surprise, let's not hope it's a California class ship, because they get smashed up a lot. I would like to see the Enterprise F.
You see lower deck ship involved at the end,
constantly getting destroyed. I would like to see the Enterprise F come and save it in terms of that importance. That would be cool. And then at the very end of the show, we see whatever would be the follow-up to TNG with the Enterprise F. Why can't we? Why can't we see another show of an Enterprise? We have had 3 shows with an Enterprise, mate. Why can't we have a 4th?
They haven't said anything on purpose, so I guess if this does as well as they think,
because it's the last.
Even if you come back and bring the crew together for a limited series, that's cool.
It's the last season, so they'll have to replace it with something, whether it's a Janeway show or a Star Trek show or a Section 31 or Star Trek Academy, something like that. But right, we'll move on, because we don't have unlimited time, unfortunately. We get 2 more shows left to do. Star Trek Prodigy Season 2, and that'll be a while off. A
year.
Yeah, probably. I mean, if we see it at the end of this year, it's a bonus, but it might not be to the start of next year. Basically, we kind of left them off that they kind of recovered from the big attack, or the construct weapon attacking the fleet, and the protostar going kablooey, which created some kind of wormhole, which got a bit timey-wimey, and they were able to hear a distress call from Chakotay in the future. But that wormhole will take them to said place. So most of the crew of the protostar get themselves into Starfleet, including Dal, even though he's augmented. But Gwen doesn't, because she's going to try and find our species and whatnot, and try and get things done, first contact, the correct way. I think we'll see her again. I hope we do. We don't see what ship they're going to go on in the last episode. Now, watch your review. We have reviewed that episode, by the way, guys, the finale. So we will see what ship they're going to be on, because they tease it, but they actually open hangar doors, and we see another protostar, and we assume rightly so they're going to jump on the protostar A, where I would have been fine with that. But she went, no, that's not the ship. They've commissioned the protostar as a full-fledged series of ships now, but I've got more plans for you guys, bigger plans, and we really, really hope it will be the Voyager A. Because I want to see, just one of my favourite starships, and we have done a special in starships, by the way, guys. So please watch that as well. So I think season 2, when it comes out, hopefully as well, they don't do what they've done with season 1, which was like a season 1 and then 1.5. It was horrible because we waited like 6 months in between. There was no need for it. Just make it 10 episodes, call it a season, fine. They won't do it 20 back-to-back, I understand why, but it's too much of a tease. Season 2 will be a while away. I would like to see them... I'd like to see Chakotay more in the show. Like, they find him, they rescue him, they bring him back to the present. There is the Voyager A with its slipstream drive built in. They go and chase after him. And there's a new bad guy. And the cadets, well, they're not even cadets at this stage, they're like stewards. They're kind of learning their way up.
Low class.
They're like Wesley Crusher when he was on the Enterprise D. That's the best way I can describe it. We'd like to see them evolve more. Gwen come back.
By the way, since you mentioned Wesley Crusher, I think that the characters in Prodigy are much better than Wesley Crusher was when he was in the series. I'm sorry.
Really? You don't like Wesley? Yeah. Poor Wesley.
Wesley got better as they found a few more things for him to do. But to be honest, as he was, for the most part, as he was a mostly occurring character all the time, I'm sorry. He was not written well. He was boring. He was unrealistic. His best thing, the actor, Will Wheaton, the best thing he's ever done is the after shows that he does now. That's his career. He does lots of them, and they're pretty good.
Poor Will Wheaton's crying into his pillow right now, man. Grace just ripped him a new one.
Look, they did bring him back. What was it at the Picard season 2, right? No, that's enough to tell you right there.
Fair enough.
Okay.
What would you like to see from season 2 of Prodigy?
I mean, you pretty much said it. I think when we did the review of the last episode on season 1,
we enjoyed it.
We both said we want to see Voyager 8. Now, at that time, we did not recall the scene at the end where the ship had crashed amazingly right there at the Starfleet Academy. That's another story. But the shuttlecrafts that went in to help it or rescue it, you and I both missed this, but we found out afterwards.
It's Voyager. It's Voyager A.
Voyager A for sure. These are short shuttlecrafts. They have the same exact number as the original Voyager.
Did it say A in the end of it, by the way, the registry? I need to check the registry.
Oh no, it said A at the end.
So it is the A, yeah, boy.
No, there's no way they could tease us now and tell us that there is no Voyager
Gray, what
A.
do you think it'll look like, the Voyager A? Do you think it'll look identical to the original, which is fine if they do that, because they often do that in Star Trek.
I think they're going to have to. Yeah, they're going to have to show the Voyager looking pretty much as it did originally, but with some refit involved.
Yeah. What do you mean refit? It's a brand new bloody ship.
Right, but so I know that, but I'm saying in terms of look, right? So they should, mess with the nacelles a little, or,
don't mess with the nacelles. They're unique. The foldy up ones, leave them.
I'm not talking about that they wouldn't fold. They got to keep that because but they could make them maybe a little more sleek looking or more streamlined.
They're tiny. They're one of the smallest of any major starship.
There's other things, little things you can do here and there.
I know. I'm not picking.
Yeah. And it should either way though. They got to keep the general shape of it. And more or less. So I want to see a refined looking A, but I don't want to see it looking too much different because you got to have the nostalgia kind of stuff, going on.
What else would you like to see?
I just want to see where they go with the characters because I think they did a really great job at developing these young characters, and now they can't really say that they're cadets anymore. So the next step, like I said, maybe low end ensigns or whatever you want to call it, or ensign trainees, something like that. They've done really well, kind of like a baptism by fire kind of thing, and so they've done very, very well. So they're not stupid, and stuff. So I want to see how they go from this point. Traveling with Janeway now, which is a big deal, and now they should be able to really learn and do things a little more adultish, I guess if you want to call it that. I would like to see. This may not happen, but I would like to see the show get a little bit less cartoony kid thing.
It's a kid show.
I know it's on Nickelodeon, but you can. The problem with the Nickelodeon umbrella, so to speak, is that the show seemed to me like it was trying to appeal to less than 10 years old, at the same time as they were trying to appeal at let's say preteens or late teens, which is really more like it. I think they need to dump this 10-year-old stuff and stick with the later teens, early 20s type young adults, and make the series that way, and just get rid of some of the obvious, really obvious stuff that are really meant for 10-year-olds or below.
Yeah.
And if they get rid of that kind of stuff that you and I commented many times about the episodes, then I think it would be even better than season 1. But overall, if they can at least maintain the quality of season 1,
Yeah.
then they'll be fine. They'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably going to look after itself. Like it was. What did we give the overall season again? Did I give it a 8?
I think we're doing 8. Yeah.
I think we've done an 8, didn't we? Which is good. So I want them to keep doing their thing. Can't follow on from the paths that we discussed, like the Chakotay thing, the Voyager thing.
One thing I got to say, let me tell you what you would think of this. So here we are, Prodigy season 2, and at the very end, they set it up for a live-action spin-off with Janeway and Chakotay in a new live-action
Yeah,
series.
we did kind of discuss that briefly, and I don't see how they would do that, because Kate Mulgrew will be working like a dog then.
Well, no, it's
I'd love to see it,
but it sets it up for some kind of, again, it doesn't have to be an ongoing series. They could do a limited series of 4 shows or something, like a long movie, which would still be cool, just to see them. That's kind of like what I would. I think they think so much that they have to make series and they have to do so many episodes.
Yeah.
I think they need to get out of that. If you could create even a 4-episode thing that kind of makes it a very long movie, so to speak, and it's done well, and it brings back some of our characters that we like, I think that'd be super. If you can't do a whole season of it, give us something. It'll still do well.
I would like to see that. What I think might happen, Gray, one of two things I think will... If I was to put money on the bookmakers with this one, I think you would get good odds on 2024 either being a standalone Kate Mulgrew show. She'll come back and do a live action show for Janeway like Picard done, or you'll see the Adventures of the Enterprise F. I think that'll be a 2024 later on to 2024 thing, because it needs to fill the void of Star Trek Picard season 3, which we're only doing 3 seasons of, which is fine. But yeah,
it would be cool to have like Strange New Worlds covering what went before, and then having a show that has the Enterprise F to show what happens after.
Yes.
So it would be, both of those are on the same time. That'd be kind of interesting.
Well, they could be on the same time at filming.
Well, I don't mean exactly the same time, but my point is that in the series of shows, to have shows like that would be kind of neat.
It would be. It would be. Yeah, I mean, they've got plenty of material to work from. There's never going to be a shortage of Trek. That's the main thing. Right, okay. The last Star Trek show we're going to talk about, and it'll be more me than Gray, because he's catching up, Star Trek Discovery Season 5, which will be shown later this year, which is good. By the summer at the latest, I'd imagine we'll have it'll be on, we'll have a date before then. So I have to be careful here, because I don't want to give major spoilers away to Gray, because he's just starting season 4 just now. Now, Gray at this stage has seen Starfleet reform to something of what it was like before.
Right.
Still not full strength.
The whole thing with the burn and
and it ends. What caused the burn? I'm still angry at that. Some kid having a temper tantrum.
Yeah, it was. What? I mean, I kind of like the premise of how it could have happened,
but not from a screaming kid.
But no. I'm saying what I'm saying is I like the idea of the vehicle of how it could have happened. But the person that made it happen was kind of like
he's annoying.
Huh?
You just wanted to, a kid having a temper tantrum today. What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's not even so much annoying as it was just kind of your head scratching. I mean, okay, I accepted the explanation up to a point, and then all of a sudden, when it got to the point where the kid loses his whatever,
cool.
This whole thing happens, and I'm like, wait a minute, you're taking a real leap saying that this is what it was, and this is how it probably happened. To now, it's a kid.
Yeah, if they come up with a different mechanism for that, but the actual burn itself was brilliant. Like knocking out every ship that had warp drive was brilliant, and they're on their knees basically at this stage, the Federation, and how they start getting back up to speed, and the way they discover the Federation Starfleet HQ. It's hidden because they're not the dominant guys. Earth is not the center of the Federation again. It's the United Earth Alliance or something like that. Starfleet's its own thing. It powers itself via all the ships connected up like batteries, powering the cloak, because they're allowed to use cloak now, because the Romulan Empire's not really a thing anymore, so Treaty of Alderaan is gone. They're allowed to use anything goes cloak a lot of the time. You got to see some cool futuristic ships, Gray. You got to see the Voyager J, which has changed a bit, but still got some kind of resemblance and shape of the original, which is good. Some cool ships. A nods to Ensign Nog, who passed away. The actor who played him passed away. So it was nice to see that Jesse Eisenberg or something. His name. I think it was the Eisenberg class, and it was a USS Nog. Brilliant little touch.
Yeah.
I love Book Ship. I've forgotten what that's called again, but I love Book Ship.
I like how it changes shape all the time.
That is great. That's futuristic technology, mate. It adapts, and you could see that it is
and programmable matter.
It's pushable. It's pushing what's believable, but like changing and morphing, and then the cells.
For 1,000 years, I mean, I can accept some of that.
Then the cells that literally don't attach. That I love that. It just blows my mind. I can't get my head around that, how that played. Yeah. And it's supposed to make it more maneuverable. I can't buy that part, but I do love that. The programmable matter thing is very cool. That's the most believable, realistic thing. Yeah. You could see that being a thing in the future, but you do see, because at the start when they're trying to use the new controls and stuff, they're like, whoa, what's this stuff coming up out of the controls? And the pilot is just like, nah, I'm done. I want my old tactile controls back. And they do change it back pretty quickly after, because it's what they're used to and budget reasons. So I like the direction.
What it sounds like that's so funny about that. And when you think about it, it's almost like today when we play video games, we remap our keys on our keyboard, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're remapping everything to the old interface so they could,
That just make sure you save the profile. Or you reset it, and you have to do it all again.
It's like, oh man.
But I love the Discovery. It's now a bold to pick in this one. It's not a review because we're not doing that for Discovery here, but the Discovery refit is called the Enterprise in the brain. It's called the Discovery A. That pissed me off. Refits should not have another letter added or an increment of letter. That is only for brand new ships. Always in Star Trek is for brand new ships. So I wasn't happy with that one. The Defiant, when it came back again, I don't think it was the Defiant A, so I may actually have made an exception to what I just said there. But for the most part, it's just a letter up. So I didn't like that.
I guess it depends, because the USS Defiant was actually a ship in TOS originally.
Yeah, that's true.
It was
the
not
name's not so
not
important,
small,
is it?
Right. It wasn't a small little fighter like later.
It was a Constitution class. But was that not in the Mirrorverse? It was the Dark Universe. It wasn't in.
I believe so.
Yeah, it was. It was the Tholian Web episode. It wasn't. That's the one I've seen, Gracie. So,
but then again, you could say that, all right, well, the reason why they didn't name the new Defiant A is because it was a totally different class of ship. So you could get away with saying that. If you're gonna make a new Constitution class Defiant, you would have had to have gone with Defiant A.
True.
But the new Defiant was a totally different class of ship completely.
It was a Sao Paulo, wasn't it? And then it got special permission to change its name back to Defiant, which maybe backs me up. If you get special permission from top brass at Starfleet to rename it to something it was before, I don't know if the registry was the same or not, but if there's special circumstances, they can do it, I guess. But that was my only vote to pick.
Registry number would have to be different no matter what.
Yeah. Well, I can live with that.
Technically. But I still agree with you either way. I still agree that because the Defiant was a class of ship, the Discovery was a class of ship, and because they weren't making a whole new class per se, or not a whole new class, but a new ship, I agree with you. It shouldn't have been A. It should have just stayed.
Yeah, it's a refit,
whatever.
You
don't need an A.
So, that was them picking up the bones and getting to grips with. There was a couple other little nags, like the Ryans. I did not like the look of them. That shade of green that they had on fake kind of plastic was horrible. But I did like the fact that Vulcans weren't part of the Federation anymore. It was Navarre, and they went in different directions. These things can happen. with alliances. And the fact that you might have not seen this yet, Greg. I don't think it's a massive spoiler. They do rejoin at some point. Of course they do.
Yeah. They hinted to that in season 3 anyway.
Yeah,
so
they do. So
the only thing that does irk me a little bit, but it's okay. I kind of like to pretend it's not there. First of all, I hated the whole thing that Berman was Spock's sister. That whole thing was ridiculous.
No, they shouldn't have done that. There was no need.
Right. So unfortunately, since it is in there and now it's canon, they made references to that in season 3, going like, well, this is Spock's sister, so she holds some weight. And I'm like, it's just like, man, I wish they never started
holds some
that.
weight still in that far in the future, mate. That says
Spock
something.
does, yes,
yeah.
but that's different. But they sat there going like, well, the next best thing is
she's alive. She's
Spock's
in the future.
sister.
He's not. So I guess that's maybe where they're coming from. It.
Yeah, I mean, the way they handled it, the writing. I'm not saying it was bad. The way it was written well. It's just that I didn't like the premise and never have of this whole thing.
Yeah,
being
I agree.
sisters.
There was no need for it. Right. You could have said that she was raised by a Vulcan family because of what happened, but not Spock's family. And
why couldn't she have been raised by a Vulcan family that was extremely prominent? Didn't have to be Spock's family. It could have been.
They could have been cousins or something at a push, the Spock family. But
look, logically, Spock's family wasn't the only prominent family on Vulcan. There were other ones.
Not.
So
of course not.
So it would have been easily just said that she was raised by the such and such family, and they were, hey, big hoity-toities on Vulcan, and that would have been fine. No, they had to make him his sister. Give me a break.
I know,
this is why I hated season 1 and 2 so much.
Well,
except for Pike.
You did say that season 3 was a lot better than the first 2 seasons.
Oh,
what would you give the season out of 10 overall? 7?
Yeah, I guess. I'd go with
respectful,
7, sure.
Considering season 2 is probably like a 4 or something.
Well, season 1 would be like a 2, and season 2 would probably be more like 4 or 5. And the only reason it even got that high was
the
Pike
Enterprise.
was in it.
Yeah, but they knew at the end of season 1 they messed up because of the reactions. So they're like, we'll get Pike and Enterprise in for season 2, which they did at the end of season 1, and that brought it up a few notches. And because they knew they messed, and they tried to repair the canon. And then season 3 is like, let's get them the hell out of this sand pit we put them in, and let's do our own thing, which you should have done from the start. It could have been like a Voyager thing, where it's going to chase the Maquis in the Badlands, and straight away it's taken away the Delta Quadrant. That should have been done at the start of Discovery Season 1.
I agree totally with what you said, and many other people have said. You're not the only one. Is that if they had started from the get-go of season 3 with the concept of being that far in the future, that it would have been fine.
Yeah.
Season 1 and 2 was just a big old stain on Discovery. If they'd started with 3, it would have been fine. So I kind of like, in my head, I just kind of like 1 and 2 never existed.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah.
And you just pick it up with 3. So
this is the bit where what I'd like to see from season 5 now. I'm again being careful what I say here. The general premise of season 4, now they've started to get things back together, is at this stage, the Discovery is the only ship still with a spore drive, which we're not massive fans of. I think Gray and I have said that before. It's the only ship.
Let me step back a second. It's not so much I don't like it. I think, again, we're going to say this again. If the spore drive or something similar to the spore drive were introduced in season 3 as the start, then it would have made more sense. The only thing I still don't like is I just don't like these special effects of the spore drive. I'm sorry. It gets me crazy.
Black Alert.
They just go... No, Black Alert's cool. I like that. But once you finish the Black Alert and the ship goes...
it should have been. Do you know what they should have done? They should have just went, Grey Alert. Grey Gamer 25 Alert. Whoop, whoop. And then it just disappears.
Oh, actually, it's funny now that you mentioned that. The Trill, the kid, the Trill, the human Trill.
I remember.
What was the persona before? What was the persona before the character? Forgot her name now. That's playing the human that's playing the Trill. The character that she talks to and sees.
Oh, it's her lover, I think. From
Do you know what the kid? Do you know what the kid's name is? Do you know what his name is?
Pass. No, that whole angle was dull. And I'm being very careful when I say that because it's the whole gender identity. It just didn't interest me.
No, that's okay. But the point is the name is the name, and you know what the name is.
Oh yes, it was. It's Grey. Yeah,
the name was Grey.
Grey.
So I'm sitting there looking at this. They're going like, Gray,
Gray, is there something you want to tell?
Gray.
Is there something you want to tell us, Gray?
And I'm sitting there going, I'm listening to this, and I'm going like, am I hearing this right?
Yeah, Gray's going
like,
nuts.
Damn, that's great. That's so funny.
Yeah. So, just being conscious of the time because we have to keep it recordings under an hour and a half. We've got 15 or so to go. So the general premise being
next week.
What?
This is part 2 next week.
No, we'll just skip over the shows that haven't come out yet. That could be a separate special, actually. In all seriousness.
Yeah.
No, what we'd like to see, or I'll comment this, season 5 is because they were getting their shit together in season 4. I want to see more of Dadmiral, the guy that's the only one of the few admirals you see at this stage here, the kind of older guy. We call him Dadmiral now. Yeah. He's cool. I think Gray, you can add to this as well. He's a cool admiral. I like him. Yeah,
I like him, and in fact, I actually like his number 1 too.
Oh yeah, true.
I like her. She's a good character.
Yeah. Not in tennis.
She may not be on a lot, but she's good.
Nobody beats in tennis for number 1.
Yeah.
So yeah, we want to see more. I want to see more of Dadmiral. The overall arc of season 4 is the big bad. I'm not going to say the big bad arc because I don't want to ruin it for Gray. But it's an overall. It's not episodic, although they have individual stories within it. But they've got an overall serial arc, and it's the big bad that's causing this temporal, no, not temporal, it's this some kind of phenomenon in space that's kind of ruining planets and whatnot. I'll leave it at that part. And they tried to find this big bad, but essentially, Gray, what blew my mind was, and they've done this in Star Trek 4, maybe Star Trek 5, was you can't always communicate with every single species you have, even with people that know other languages naturally, that like Ahuras or with Universal Translator. Some species are so far above you, even at Star Trek level, that it's like us trying to talk to an ant. I'll leave it at that.
Right.
And so you use that premise in your head of what the big bad is. They can't communicate it with it at the start. It's so massive. They destroy it. Did they talk to it? Blah, blah, blah. This is the whole thing here. Discovery's only ship with the spore drive still. So the big bad is out of the solar system, past the barrier, whatever they call that again, which has been in Star Trek more than once. They have to get through that because it normally vaporizes ships. So they have to try and get through this somehow, speak to the big bad. I did like this. I did like this angle because they've not done this too much in Star Trek. They end it with, I think at some point in season 4, I don't know if it's at the start or the end of season 3, Burnham is a captain now. Gray's not.
It happened at the end of 3 when she's captain 4.
Gray's not a massive fan of that. I am. She should have just been captain from the start, but I think their angle was they want to make the main character not the captain for once, which is fine, but stick with that all the way through. But they didn't. They realised, Burnham should have been a captain at the start. Yeah, she should have. Right. But they didn't do it like that. So I think she plays a good captain. She's not perfect. She's a bit more emotional and reckless, but we've seen that before. I want to see their continuing adventures. One thing that will happen, Gray, that will piss you off is I think more ships, and it's okay, I'm okay with this, and I'll tell you why. More ships in season 5 will have the spore drive, and that's because they've tried to find a way of doing it without hurting the pilot, without using sentient beings, all that kind of stuff, and I think they've cracked that. Now, in the future at that level, I'm okay with that, but again, because it didn't happen in the future, it happened before TOS. That's what pisses us off. In the future, it's fine. You expect them to bring all these advancements forward. These ships can choose which form of transport to use. Like, normal propulsion, bloody warp drive, transwarp, bloody warp drives. Doesn't matter what the spore, anything goes. In fact, Book's ship can cherry pick them all. It can do all of them. And that's plausible in the future. The fixed canon, they fixed it because they broke it. And they haven't broken it since, I don't believe, Grace. So stick to that. I don't want to say anything too massive. I just want them to continue improving from season 3 upwards like they've done. We want to see the next angle. Well, I want to see the next bad, basically, because it's like a normal Star Trek season now. I appreciate you can't comment too much, Gray. If you give us a couple of minutes, a few minutes, what you'd maybe want to see. You haven't seen season 4, but you know a general premise.
I'm not going to say too much, only because I still want to get through 4. But what I would do, or I'll pose the question to you, and then maybe I'll answer it myself another time. Once season 5 is over, Would you rather Discovery go off into the night and that's the end of it, or do you think you'd want to see more?
If they keep doing what they've been doing season 3 onwards, where its own little separate universe thing, it can keep going. And I say that because a lot of Star Trek shows go 7 seasons. As long as they keep up the quality of season 3 or 4, I don't mind it continuing on. If they do it in season 5, same quality again, mate. That's a big if.
If that's the case, then Star Trek Discovery season 6, I want to see the return of Khan. Okay, I know it won't happen, but that would be interesting.
What? He's dead,
somehow
man.
He survives. No, somehow he survives,
and he came back in the bloody Kelvin universe. Is that not enough for you, man? Jesus.
Khan Jr. No, forget the Kelvin. We don't even care about that.
I know, but it's canon, mate. Whether you like it or not.
I don't care. It doesn't exist to me. It's like goodbye.
See these old boys, man. They don't like change. They hate it.
No, I'm only kidding. Yes, but still, I'll hold back and let me see what almost. I don't know why I'm saying this, but I'm almost kind of thinking that I would rather Star Trek Discovery go off into the sunset with a really bang up season 5.
Yeah, true.
And then just concentrate on the newer shows and then concentrate on new shows.
Great. See if they do that though. I can accept that if it's a good season, right? Because that's 5 seasons, 3 of them good, 2 of them not so good. I can live with that if they bring it makes room for 2 more shows because Picard's finishing, and that would then be your Janeway show, and then that would then be your Enterprise F show, potentially.
Right. Or maybe finally the Section 31 that they've been yakking about.
Yeah.
Or Starfleet Academy.
Our aim is...
I don't know how we are on time, but just to briefly touch, I wouldn't mind seeing a Section 31 only because it's different going with a Black Ops because everybody has Black Ops even in the world today. So what would that be like? Cool. Starfleet Academy, though, I've never been interested in that premise, and I still am not.
That'll be too social, teeny poppy, like Deep Space Nine, because there isn't a ship really per se.
It's gonna be Star Trek: The Hunger Games or something like that.
Not a fan. It'll be too much like a soap opera, like the soaps that they have in the UK and in the States, where it's just way overinflated of what happens in real life. Nah.
Or even worse, it'd be like a reality show.
No, very briefly, like Section 31 in the Starfleet Academy show. Starfleet Academy, I don't want to see it. I don't think it will ever happen. Section 31, I do think will happen, and it's not been taken off the idea table yet. Michelle Yeoh, you'll see this in season 4. What happens with her? Well, she's in season 3, isn't she?
Yeoh disappears in season 3.
Oh, so you've seen that with the Garden of Tomorrow?
Forever.
Forever, sorry. Forever. That was brilliant, Gray. Did you not? That was, they done that perfect,
I wasn't really expecting it until it just kind of
Exactly. And then the voice comes on, I am the Guardian Forever. And I was like, the hairs are standing on my neck. I was like, yes, boy. I've done that.
Because I love that character so much, and I love the guy that did the voice. I did a little research on this.
Yep.
The guy who did the voice and also played 4 or 5 other voices in the original series, not just the Guardian. Okay. He passed away in 1990.
Okay.
Now the voice that they used in Star Trek was his. No, it was his voice.
Okay.
But they took archival recordings of him, from City on the Edge of Forever, and then just put it into the episode. So it really was his voice.
They done well with that. They done really well with that.
And I'm glad they did it because as much as I like this character of Carl, which was kind of cool.
He's hiding it. He's got to have a name. He's got to have a cool name. He's Carl.
Right. But I'm glad they at least threw in, even if it was only for a second, you see the Guardian, you get that voice. I am the Guardian.
Yeah. That was cool.
So I was just like, yeah.
And how the door wasn't really the portal, or the portal was the door, but you didn't see it because he's hidden. He's far away.
Right.
Well, that's
the other thing that was interesting when I did some research is in this TV series, we've only heard of the Guardian Forever 3 times. Originally in City on the Edge of Forever, he was in the animated series on an episode, and he ended up in Discovery. But when you look at the history and do some research online, if you were to count the novels in, oh my God, the Guardian Forever pops up about 6 or 7 or 8 more times.
This is why I don't like the books.
Yeah, I know, and I felt that way too, because as I'm reading all these different times, where he was popping up, I'm going like, this is too much, man. I mean,
Yeah. Don't overuse things, people, but it's not main canon, so it's fine, Gray.
Right, so I don't even care. So
So
I just like the way that they did it. Fine, and it was a good reason because it was so far in the future. It made sense that the Guardian is off doing his thing and doesn't want anybody to find him, which is fine.
yeah.
So all that was very, very well written. I really enjoyed that. It was written really well.
Loved it.
Explained it. Got a thing that you know and love from the original series in there in the proper right way.
Yeah.
And so it all made sense. You can't overdo something like the Guardian. You just can't.
With that, Michelle Yeoh, her character goes back to the present. So that's why Section 31 can happen. And I really hope it did, because I like the clandestine take on it. I did like, I wasn't a massive fan of, I can't remember what the bad guy was in Season 2 of Discovery, Central, I think, maybe, where it was the AI taking over. I liked the ships they were using. They weren't allowed to use cloaks still, but they went for, think of the American bombers that they use, can't remember what they're called, the ones that are, they're basically, they're not cloaked, but radar can't pick them up. Things like that. They're very dark colours or like just black, and they don't stand out very well. Yeah, stealth and kind of thin. I like that. So, and I want to see the inner workings of how they can go about things. That would be brilliant if they'd done it so well, and I hope they do, because Michelle Yeoh's a popular lady. She's popping up in a lot of things, including Blood Origins, Grey. So, we want to see Section 31. That won't happen anytime soon, though, I don't think. I just had to be put on the block for a while. Starfleet Academy, hopefully never. But yeah, that's where we're at the moment with that. We all have to wrap up, Grey, unfortunately. But it's been fun talking about this. We'll come back next week and do another special. We haven't decided which yet. I've got an idea. It might very well be our favourite series and why. Just a hint. I've been wanting to do that one for a while, but we'll see. But yes, I thought Gray was going to add a little cheeky comment there for me to talk about something. But yeah, listen, thank you as always for tuning in. A little call out to arms as usual is that if you can give this a cheeky like and a comment below, subscription, a little cheeky sub. I to be honest, like the likes and the comments are really important to me, because we want to see what you want for ideas for the future. And you can check out our reviews from beforehand as well. The seasons we've done, we're on all the podcasting platforms as well that you listen to. Gray's GGR, Gray's Green Room, is about entertainment in general. We tend to not do much Star Trek in this because we do it here, but we'll touch on it from time to time. He's there on YouTube and the podcasting platforms too. GGR at Twitter and the Trekway on Twitter as well. And last but not least, extremepcuk.co.uk. That's always a tongue twister. That's what we do our gaming pod as well, guys. For now, I don't know if his website's still up, but we have a Discord for it as well, and you come along to that. We have a nice little entertainment room where we just talk nonsense about entertainment. But yeah, that is going to be us until next week. Thank you for tuning in, and as usual, do your thing, Gray.
Long and prosper.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye.